Hello, everybody, and welcome to the first episode of the MLS News and Co podcast. As you could have guessed, it's just going to be about MLS, breaking news stories, weekly recaps, predictions, just your typical podcast going over everything in MLS. We'll start with some quick introductions for us four. First, we'll go with Ryan. Do you want to introduce yourself first?
Hey guys, I'm Ryan, big CF Montreal and obviously Canada national team fan. Been a Montreal fan like probably on and off since we've gone into MLS, but like really started following pretty hardcore since like 2016, 2017 kind of era, and yeah, that's me.
Arturo, you want to go next?
Yeah, my name's Arturo. I'm a Philadelphia Union fan, if you cannot tell. I started following this team 2016, 2017. Yeah, that's it.
All right, Rory.
My name's Rory Arthur. I've been kind of following Toronto FC ever since their inception in 2007. But I'd say I really kind of locked in on them in the years where they were really good, 2015 to 2017 area, and kind of ever since I've followed MLS at a pretty high level as well as Canadian soccer as a whole. So yeah, that's me.
My name is Will Hanson. For those that don't know, I run MLS News. I started that account back in 2017. I was just bored. I really started getting into the league back then and wanted to start posting. So it's been nearly 8 years now. We're still here. I'm from Minnesota, if you couldn't tell. Big Minnesota United fan since 2014 before MLS. And excited to talk about MLS with some fellow avid watchers.
I think avid's the right word for it. Yeah, I'm excited to kind of talk about MLS. I feel like I spend my weekends and Saturday nights watching the league, whether I'm in the building at BMO Field or just at home turning on MLS 360 or a certain game or whatever. So I feel like this is a pretty good outlet to kind of just document my thoughts and something that's better than just a group chat.
All right, so a little introduction for everyone. I'll get right into it. First, we'll start with the weekend recaps. The first game of the weekend was Atlanta versus Nashville. Nashville got a 2-0 win thanks to goals from Alex Muil and Hani Mukhtar. Does anyone want to start us off? Their thoughts on the match?
Yeah, I'll go. I mean, this is a big win for Nashville in the general scheme of things. Like, I know it's been a really tough season for them. Like, this is their first win since like June, and the first win of the BJ Callahan era. So yeah, I think it was really needed. It's nice to see Mukhtar back on the score sheet again. I know it hasn't been his best year. I think he's kind of ended up dropping too deep at times. Like they're not going to make the playoffs. They're not going to like make a jump or anything. This gets them out of last in the East for now. I know New England's got a game in hand on them, but I mean, I think at this point in Nashville's season, they really need to just kind of focus on trying to find good things, trying to build momentum going to next year, trying to figure out what the best kind of 11 or the best formation to put on the pitch for BJ Callahan is. And for Atlanta, this is a tough loss, so I'll let someone go into that more. But they needed to win this game at home against a bad team to kind of keep their playoff hopes alive. Now they're 2 points behind the line, so I don't know.
I mean, I was just gonna say Atlanta, like, so Moranchuk obviously started this game. I don't know, like it's like his second or third game. It feels like hasn't
First
done
start,
anything.
I think.
Oh, is this first?
First start. I think he's come off the
Okay.
bench a couple times.
Yeah, fair enough. First start, but still, like, bro, like this was supposed to be like a coming out party in a sense. Like, bro, you're playing literally the worst, the bottom table team in the East, and you can't even score. And it's like they were on I think they were on like a 7-game losing streak or something, and like not even a goal. Like nobody even said to win the game first. Like obviously they were expecting that, but you can't even score. Like this is your DP number 10 that you signed. And they have decent pieces around him also. Like Lobjanidze is good, Jean De Silva is good, Danny Rios is kind of washed, but he'll score a few goals here and there. But I don't know. I was expecting more from Atlanta. If I was an Atlanta fan, like I would just be like, what's the point anymore? We can't even beat the last place team in the East. So Arturo, any
I was
thoughts?
I was gonna say that's an incredibly devastating loss for Atlanta. That's when you're playing a bottom team like that, you just have to find a way to win, especially this late in the season. Um, yeah, Nashville's not. It's probably not gonna matter in the end for Nashville, but that was an incredibly crucial game for Atlanta, and they needed to win that game, especially at home. No excuses if you want to be a playoff team.
Look, I mean, I think we keep talking about how this was horrible for Atlanta United and all of them. And I know you just said Nashville's not going to make the playoffs, but they're what 4 points off that ninth place spot, and all of those bottom teams in the East from I don't want to say from Charlotte down, but from Charlotte to Chicago Fire, who I'm pretty sure is in dead last, New England Revolution, sorry, they all suck.
Yeah.
So you never know what can happen in those positions. I know, like you said, Nashville were on like what a 7-game losing streak or something, and then they come to Atlanta and ruin the party 5 minutes into the game. And their next game is against the Chicago Fire at home. I mean, if they win that one, which they should, it's
Yeah.
going to be huge for them, momentum wise, just because you know that the other teams aren't going to do good when they play the big opposition. I don't think Atlanta's going to end the season pretty good. I don't think Philadelphia, Montreal, Chicago, New England aren't. They're going to have their moments. They're going to have winnable games, but I think Nashville, they saved their season in that win against Atlanta, in my opinion.
Yeah, I was gonna say, of course this is MLS, so there's still 7, 8 games left, so nothing's over until it's over. But it's an incredibly crucial game for Atlanta and not a good look at home.
Yeah, I agree. If you start looking at Atlanta's schedule too, like it doesn't get very much easier. Like they've got Miami at home, the Red Bulls away. They do not play well against the Red Bulls historically. Philly away is absolutely the biggest game of the season left. Then like Montreal at home should be winnable. The Red Bulls at home again, they don't fare well against the Red Bulls, and then Orlando away to end the year. Like how many points do you think they really get into that? Like four?
If
Four?
Moranchuk has to start playing like actual 10 for them to have any chance. If he like doesn't show up,
Yeah.
they have zero chance of making the playoffs.
Yeah. I think they need a striker to show up. You're right. Danny Rios can score goals, but when he's not in form, like he's not in form. Jamal Tiare is kind of the same way. They need to find one of them that they can plug in, and he's going to score them a goal at the end of the stretch, or they're going to fall. Like they're just not.
Yeah.
It's not kind enough to teams in that range. If you can't win a couple games out of that last 6, like you're not making the playoffs under any circumstance. So
All right, we'll head on to the next game. Next game is CF Montreal versus Charlotte. CF Montreal got a win at home. Seems like it's been a while since Montreal won a game. But Caden Clark and Bryce Duke both scoring for Montreal. Pretty back-to-back, a few minutes apart. And Tim Ream got his first goal for Charlotte after coming back in the summer. So that's a good, at least someone's making an impact on Charlotte. Not a good result, but we'll let Ryan go here since it's his team.
Yeah, no, that was a pretty decent performance. Honestly, it felt like a game that was like anybody could win. Honestly, like in the second half, there weren't really like a lot of clear-cut chances, if any. So I don't know. I'm happy we got 3 points. Obviously, I'm really happy Caden Clark scored because, listen, I mean, it was like a pretty much a high, like low risk, high reward. I don't know why that took so long for me to say trade because we only traded for 50K, and Caden Clark is a good player. Like when he was super young, obviously we know how well he started in MLS, and he hasn't really been able to kind of like get that form again. But hopefully this move rejuvenates his career, and honestly, if we keep playing him, like this guy has talent, everybody knows. But yeah, happy with 3 points. I mean, we also kind of defended pretty well considering how bad our defense is. But yeah, it was a good 3 points, and hopefully we can win on Wednesday in New England, but I highly doubt it, even though New England are also pretty bad. But yeah.
Arturo is kind of mentioning this, but like like Charlotte in that mix for that 7 to whatever range and like falling into that, they've really kind of gone stale lately. It feels like they just can't score at the same level, and like their goal this game came from Tim Ream. Like I don't expect Tim Ream to score goals off set pieces every game. He's a center back, like good center back, but not that. I mean, like Karol Swiderski, since he's come back, like what has he really done this season?
He has one penalty goal.
I was gonna say, scored a penalty, hasn't done much else. So Pep Biel's come in. I haven't seen anything from him yet, and those are the kind of two key pieces that were supposed to take them over. Like, oh, Swiderski's back and kind of rejuvenated, and he wants to be in Charlotte again, and Biel's in as the number 10 you didn't have before, and so far they haven't gelled. It hasn't worked, and it's done more harm than good for Charlotte. So concerning result for them, but again, like Ryan was saying, it's a good result for Montreal. It keeps them a semblance of alive. 3 points behind the playoff line. Anything can happen. You're still in the mix.
Yeah, I was gonna say I think it's kind of tough for Charlotte with those two transfer deals collapsing at the deadline for Almiron and Stengs. I feel like maybe BL wasn't really someone they wanted, but maybe someone that they just had to go get because there was no one else available at the time. I'm sure they obviously knew about him, but definitely was not high up on that list. So I think it was kind of just a time of the moment, I guess. They needed someone, and he was going to be the easiest to get at the last second. So not great, obviously, for them. I think they overachieved a little bit in the earlier parts of the season. So I think where they are right now is kind of an accurate representation, but I think they can still be a playoff team. But
yeah, they're a playoff team. Like, no, I was just saying, like, they're a playoff team. Like, I'm not saying they're going to fall out or anything. Like, I think they've won too many games. Like, they have too many points to fall out at this point. But yeah, could go ahead, Artur.
Yeah, I mean, before Leagues Cup, I want to say Charlotte were pretty good. They were like, I was expecting them to finish top 5 in the East. Obviously, they still can, but like, I don't think it's gonna happen. They're in 7th right now, ahead of Toronto and DC. Ahead of Toronto by 2 points, ahead of DC by 5. They play Orlando away, New England at home, Miami away, Chicago at home, Montreal at home, and end the season away at DC United. Their last win was against FC Cincinnati. And then they tied the curve. And then they tied Austin, which is 3 great results. And I mean, post Leagues Cup, they've been horrible. And now, look, you're in the race to survive. Like Rory said, they're a playoff team. He doesn't see them falling. I don't think they're going to fall, but I wouldn't be surprised if they did, especially with those final 2 games against Montreal and DC United, since both Montreal and United are both in that fight for the final playoff spots as well.
Just something to add. If I was Charlotte, I would not be afraid of Montreal, and that's like me being just someone that's watched this team the whole season. But also something interesting about Charlotte is that they had the third least goals scored in the East, which is crazy, and they had the second least goals conceded. So it's like a crazy like scale. So they haven't really scored a lot this season anyway. And if I'm Dean Smith, I don't really know how long Ayamang is out for, but Swiderski doesn't really want to be there. It's kind of obvious. Like I think he was trying to force a move in the summer anyway. I would start Ayamang, and also like Ayamang is like, you could debate he's kind of better than Swiderski as a 9. I don't know. I personally think that. And he also deserves his place. Like, he scores when he plays at a decent, pace. But yeah, I think Charlotte will be okay.
All right, next game we have the most interesting game, the best game of the weekend. DC United with a 1-1 draw against NYCFC. Benteke and Santi Rodriguez with the goals, both penalty kicks. Anyone want to add anything to this game?
Benteke is my golden boot pick. That's all I really care about. I guess the only other thing I can say is it's a good result for DC at home. You know, you're drawing a better team. Would have liked the win, but it puts them into the playoff spot. And if you told me, 3 weeks ago that DC would, be in a playoff spot, I would have called you crazy. So, good for them. That's all I have to say.
I would just add that I think Santi Rodriguez is one of the most underrated players in the league, even though he scored a penalty, and I did not watch a second of this game. He's very good. Whenever I watch him, he turns up, and he's also a very creative player, someone with flair. That actually there's a lot of in MLS, but outside of MLS, you rarely, and outside of let's say South America, you rarely see it anymore, which is good to see. And yeah, he's a player that when he gets the ball, anything can happen. So. Yeah, just a quick little shout out to my Santi, MLS Cup champ.
Matt Freese is pretty good. That's all I'll add. Apparently, he got man of the match.
He's a good keeper. I think I know we're not going into awards in this show, but I think he might be goalkeeper of the year for me.
Yeah,
wow.
Matt Freese can be in that underrated player category too, I think. Yeah, I was gonna say Benteke. I think a lot of people think he's going to fall off and not end up winning the Golden Boot, but he just keeps scoring, so we'll see. Next, we have The Hell Is Real. Wasn't very real, 0-0 draw, but yeah, I don't know what to say.
Not much to say.
I really don't either.
Obviously, two good teams that are going to finish in the top 3 of the Eastern Conference, but nothing to separate them today. Personally, I think, actually, I don't know if this is not really a hot take, but Columbus is the better team. But
yeah,
it's a good point for both teams.
I think with this result, the Shield race is done. I think we can all agree on that. The Shield race.
I think so.
Yeah.
Unless the Galaxy do something crazy, but I don't think so. Miami would have to lose too much, and they're not going to lose. So, yeah. I just want to quickly talk about this game a bit. You said that Columbus is a better team. I totally agree. I also don't think it's a hot take. I think they're the best team in the league and probably on the continent right now. I think the stats kind of back that up. If you look at just the base kind of numbers here, like expected goals, shots on target, big chances. Columbus led in every single one of those categories on the road at TQL Stadium, and I think sometimes you just don't score, and that's okay. I think this is a game that could have kind of figured out which one of these teams is going to finish 2 and which one is going to finish 3, and a draw kind of just pushes that back. I think we'll get to El Tráfico later in this episode. I'm sure we'll talk a bit about that, but I felt like that game kind of figured out who was going to finish on top of the 2 LA teams, and this game did nothing to separate the two Ohio teams for me. So I guess it's something to just keep tabs on. But I think Columbus will finish ahead. They've got the game in hand. I think they might just win out, or mostly win out.
Something interesting about the Shield race is that all the way back in week 2, technically week 2, but because Miami played RSL in midweek, but when the Galaxy played Miami at home, and they choked in the last minute because Messi scored, and Ricky Puig also missed a pen. If that game would have gone LA's way, there would only be, I think, a 4-point margin because LA would be on 57 and Miami would be on 61. But Miami would also have a game on LA, but 4 points is way more manageable than how do they have right now? 6 or 7. So yeah, you win some, you lose some.
All right, next up, Inter Miami. The GOAT returns. Inter Miami picks up a 3-1 win over Philadelphia. Messi with 2 goals in the first half. Suarez added a goal deep in stoppage time. But Philadelphia did score first in this game with Mikal Ua scoring in the 2nd minute. We'll let Arturo start with this one since this is his team.
First off, I cannot believe that the Philadelphia Union went to Fort Lauderdale and were winning 2 minutes in. If you told me this back in 2020, sure, I believe you. If you told me this a week ago, I would have said, yeah, there's no way. Look, it was a defensive error by Inter Miami that had Ua score, from what I heard. And then I mean, and then look, Messi, just Messi, you know. Um, this match showed a lot of things. It showed Messi's back, obviously. It showed that the Philadelphia Union need Andre Blake. I don't want to blame Andrew Rick for any of the goals because look, you're going up against Messi and Suarez. But then again, I mean, I think he could have done better. I don't want to judge him. He's like 18 or 19 or whatever. But there was also a defensive error by Miami where I believe it was Gazdag, and Maribo were all through. And messes it up and it goes to Gazdag. And Gazdag has himself, Drake Callender, and then he has Maribo on Gazdag's right. Gazdag deciding to shoot it straight at Callender instead of doing it to Maribo when, it's minor stuff like that that makes it. I believe it would have been 2-1 to us or 2-2. I don't remember, but I mean, just a lot of mistakes by the Union. I know I kind of just went on like explaining everything, but this is going to be very tough for us now to end the season. We have New York, or New York City, I should say, at New York City Wednesday, and then it's manageable. DC, Atlanta, and then we end the season off, in my opinion, not good. We go to Orlando, we go to Columbus, and then we host Cincinnati. I think if we sneak into the playoffs, we're going to play this Miami team again. And, I mean, it's going to be over in 2 games. So that's all I have to say, really. Just missed chances by the Union. And obviously Miami's going to Miami.
Yeah, I think for sure Andre Blake saves Messi's second goal. But I don't know. Injuries happen. Stuff happens. It's the way she goes, long season. Ryan, what do you think?
Yeah, obviously Blake. There's a little space between Blake and Alex Rick, but like you said, he's 18. That's he's at least he's playing right now. But yeah, no. The thing about Miami though that's interesting, Arturo kind of mentioned, like they give up chances. They give up a lot of chances, and nobody like ever talks about it because they always win, which is annoying. But like Miami are not great defensively, especially after getting rid of Yedlin at the beginning of the season. Like Vegant, this guy is not like he's kind of just
he's bad.
Yeah,
he's not good.
He's not the best. Aviles is good, obviously. Did they play? Yeah, they played Alba. Obviously, Alba is Alba, but like, they're not like amazing defensively. They're there for the taking, but the problem is just Messi, Suarez, like Diego Gomez. Like they have Matias Rojas. They have so many guys in attack. Like Matias Rojas and Diego Gomez on any other team would be like top 2-3 players on the team, and it's like. Miami has Messi, Suarez, Busquets, Alba. It's like they're like completely outshined, which is kind of funny. But yeah, no, Miami's Miami, and I don't know. Hopefully they don't win MLS Cup. I really don't want them to win MLS Cup.
Just to add on to this quickly, speaking of their defense, David Martinez, the Paraguayan center back they signed, he went off in the 15th minute with an injury, I believe. I don't know how bad that is, but their backup center back option right now is bringing on Noah Allen, who's a left back. So it's either that or they drop Busquets in, and neither of those options I think are all that great. Like again, like they brought in Frere at the start of the year to try and be that center back, and then he went down with the ACL, and now no Martinez is hurt. He hasn't really been able to stay on the field a ton too. He picked up a red in the Leagues Cup, so I think like their talent is good enough that they can beat Philadelphia at home pretty easily, but like I wonder, it gets to the playoffs and Columbus or Cincinnati come into town. I don't know, like do they win that?
Yep, and Inter Miami's defense I think is going to be the most interesting thing to watch over the last month of the season, the playoffs. If they do not make a deep run in the playoffs, I think the defense is going to be what it comes down to, in my opinion. But
We saw that in the Leagues Cup, right? Like they had the lead on Columbus, and they let it slip. They couldn't defend when Columbus was on top of them and coming at them. Like most teams can't, but Miami couldn't either.
Real quickly to add on, you guys were talking about injuries and everything. If one of our center backs gets injured between Glesnes and Elliott, we're done. The season's over. Our backup center back is Nathan Harriel, who is a right back. And then this, other than that, what, Mbaizo or what's his face, Danley Jackus, the new guy that we
Jean
got.
Jacques.
Yes, I mean we have no center back depth. We have no. Our left back backup is Mbaizo or Harriel. Like our defensive depth from the back line to the goalkeeper, it's over. Like if one injury, it's done. We've seen it with Blake. We might, hopefully we don't, but we might see it with any defender for the Union.
Yep, I think Inter Miami is obviously a very good team, but if they do end up going out, I think it's going to come down to the defense. That's not really a hot take, but when you have Messi on your team, but I personally I don't see them in MLS Cup just because of that defense, but only time will tell. Next up, we have Orlando versus New England. Orlando wins this pretty convincingly, as expected. New England has just not got anything going this year, really. Caleb Porter was suspended for this game, so he was not on the sideline. Orlando got goals from Rafael Santos, Facundo Torres, and Duncan McGuire. I don't think New England was really ever in the game, but anyone got anything to add?
I think Orlando's a dark horse team heading into the playoffs again. Like they're already up into fifth in the East above NYCFC and Charlotte now. I could see a world where they pip the Red Bulls by the end, and all of a sudden they get a home series, and maybe they win a game, maybe they face like a Cincinnati or something, and give them some trouble. Like they've really kind of rounded into some good form lately. Once they finally figured out their 11 and kind of got everyone back on the pitch, like Facundo Torres, ever since being left off the Uruguay squad, I think it's been documented enough that he's been fantastic. Martino Ojeda in the 10, I think has been good. I'm a big fan of Ivan Angulo on the left wing. I think he brings a ton of dynamism and energy that's a good kind of complement to Torres, kind of cutting in and playmaking on the other wing. And then, with Enrique and McGuire up top, like that's a very, very good front four that can, score. Like all four of those guys can score and assist, and I think they can give a lot of teams trouble as long as the back line and Pedro Gallese can hold up, because Gallese can have a stinker every now and again.
Something to say about Orlando that's pretty interesting is that nobody even talks about Muriel. The guy scored 2 goals against Philly the whole season and just has not scored and this was supposed to be their guy. And luckily for them, Duncan McGuire stayed. Duncan McGuire is Duncan McGuire, who scored, I don't even know how many he has. I think he has probably around 8 to 10. But he scores, And Facundo Torres, Angulo, Ojeda, they have a good team. And defensively, they're good also. Thor Hanson is one of the best right backs in the league. Obviously, Gallese is good. Hanson has been good. Rafael Santos is actually a pretty interesting player. He has the type of left foot that you can whip a ball in with so much pace, kind of like Alvaro Barreal last season, a couple seasons before also. And I don't know if you guys saw his goal, but brilliant goal. One of the goals of the week.
It was a really nice hit.
Yeah, amazing goal. And yeah, they're a good team. They're really solid, hard to break down. Even when Columbus beat them in the playoffs last year, that game could have gone kind of either way. Obviously Columbus. If it was in Columbus, I think Columbus would have won pretty easily. But yeah, they're a good team. Not much to say about them. They could be a threat in the playoffs, but to be honest, I think there are better teams. So, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah, Orlando started the season off not great, but they've been climbing ever since. Keep going up and up. This is the time to get hot. It doesn't matter where you finish in the standings in MLS. If you make it, any team can get hot. Any team can win the cup.
Yeah, they did this last year too. Quickly before we move on to the next game, like they weren't quite as bad to start last year, but they were kind of average. And then by the end of the year, they were one of the best teams in the league again. So I think that they're doing it right rather than starting off hot and falling off as the year goes on. So I don't know. I like Orlando. I think they're pretty good.
You don't want to go into the playoffs cold. All right, next game, Toronto versus Austin. Toronto wins 2-1. Jonathan Osorio gets on the board. DeAndre Kerr and Owen Wolf had a decent goal for Austin, but it did not matter in the end. Rory, we'll start with you since this is your team, Toronto FC.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty hard to understate how big this win was for Toronto FC, especially after a disappointing loss against DC before the international break. Like Austin is the last easy game on the calendar for Toronto, unless you want to count Chicago away, which maybe. But that's also the game after the Canadian Championship final against Vancouver. So who knows who's going to be on the pitch for that Chicago game? Yeah, you could tell in the locker room they wanted to come out quickly. You know, they were on the front foot. Osorio scored a really nice hit on just two bounces in the box, and then he just smashed it home after the ball was tackled away from DeAndre Kerr. Kerr found his own in the 30th minute, a nice transition chance, and Larea was played through and squared it to Kerr, who tapped it into the open goal. And then after that, honestly, it was all Austin the rest of the game. I thought they looked pretty good. They were able to move the ball through midfield really well, and then get either Osman Bakari or Hadir Obrayan or Owen Wolf when he came on, kind of in space and running into the 18-yard box and getting shots away. And in the end, it was Sean Johnson who made the stop time after time after time, and that was kind of the difference in this game. Sean Johnson, if he doesn't save one or two of these, it probably goes another way, and TFC's looking at another disappointing result and probably looking at falling out of the playoff picture, coming into a tough stretch, especially with the Columbus game coming up on Wednesday. So yeah, it's a big win for Toronto FC. I think DeAndre Kerr is kind of locked up the starter role for the next couple weeks at least. He's scored in back-to-back games now, and he's looked pretty good. And Prince Musu hasn't scored in a while. And Sidney and Bernadeschi were both healthy and available to start this one. They're both going to need to start. Same with Richie Larea, and yeah, it's going to be tough sledding for TFC the rest of the way. The hope really for them is they've built enough of a cushion. They've got 5 points in Orlando, 6 points in Philadelphia, and 3 on DC, that they can kind of withstand whatever push comes from any of those teams, or even any of the ones below. Although that's less likely.
Ain't nothing to say about Toronto FC.
I don't know, it's a boring.
Yeah.
There's nothing to say other than they need to win the games that they have, and they need their best players on the pitch. Austin's pretty irrelevant too. This loss probably knocked them out of playoff contention.
I have something to say about Austin. So this their DP is Osman Bakari. Has he played? Because I haven't seen his name.
He started this game.
I know.
He started this game.
I know he started this game, but like in general, has he played? Because has he scored or assisted in MLS yet? It feels like they signed him like forever ago.
He scored a goal.
Oh.
But they signed him in May, but he couldn't go in until the window opened in July,
Yeah.
right? And then he played the one Leagues Cup game, got the red card, and then it's just one of those awkward things where you sign him and then that happens, and then he doesn't actually play an MLS game until the end of August. So, but I thought he looked pretty good though. He's quick. When you have he and Hadir Obrayan on the wings, there's a lot of speed that can run at fullbacks or center backs even. If they want to play like that, you can get Driussi sending passes through to them. I think that's a recipe to score some goals, but at the end of the day, I just don't think Austin has enough quality up and down the roster to really make a push at this point. They're 5 points back of Minnesota, 6 points back of Portland. They've got the same amount of games played. What's the remaining schedule? LAFC away, Houston at home, RSL at home, Portland away, Galaxy away, Colorado at home. Those are all playoff teams and pretty good ones at that. So I don't know. I don't see it for them.
A Portland game is going to be very interesting. Obviously, they're, 6 points behind? But Portland, they play the Galaxy next, and then they play teams that are either fighting for playoffs or teams that are in that position. Obviously, I don't want to talk about Portland now because we're on Austin and Toronto, but I think October 2nd is when Austin has to travel to Providence Park. I think that can be very interesting. Both Portland and Austin don't do anything until then.
I kind of think Portland will be fine by then. But yeah, if they falter, it'll be a game to watch at least.
Chicago picks up a 2-1 win over the New York Red Bulls with goals from Tom Barlow, former Red Bull, Georgios Koutsias, and Dennis Yangar scoring for the Red Bulls. Not a ton to say about this. I think the Red Bulls, something that's really going to affect them late in the season is not being able to get that striker over the line in the summer transfer window. I think they really need someone to be scoring goals. They don't have much offensively other than Lewis Morgan. So I think without that, obviously they're going to make the playoffs, but it's going to be harder to make a deep run than it would have been if they had that striker. So,
like, honestly, I've talked to a couple of Red Bulls fans in the past month or so, ever like in the transfer window and after, and I've never seen a more obvious hole in the lineup as the Red Bulls needing a number 9 that can put the ball in the net, and somehow they didn't get it done. This isn't a new thing. It's not like they had a great striker who went down injured. Like, I know Forsberg's been injured. They have not been good without Forsberg. But all you needed to do was sign a striker that scores goals. They've had years to do this. Like, they tried to do it with Fanzier. He didn't work. Elias Manuel is an okay player, but he cannot, like, he's not a consistent goal scorer. Like, I don't know. Like, what's... Like, Felipe Carvalho, the midfielder they signed to kind of replace Frankie Amaya, made his first start in this game. I think he was okay. Like, they've got some good kids in there, like Peter Stroud, Daniel Edelman, Cameron Harper, Dennis Gangara, like, on the midfield or on the wings, but it's starting to feel like a lost season for the Red Bulls, in one where they've got a fantastic, defense group. They've only lost 6 times all year, which is less than Cincinnati and only one more than Columbus. But they've drawn 13 times because they can't score goals at a high enough level. It's a real shame. They're a frustrating team to watch.
Something to say about the Red Bulls is Van Zier was supposed to be that guy, and they spent like so much on him, for the Red Bulls at least. Like, they spent a decent amount. And like Manuel is like Rory said, he's a good player, but he's not getting you. If he's getting you double-digit goals, it's like 10 on the dot. It's kind of sad because Van Zier was going to be that guy and he just wasn't. But also for the Red Bulls, it's like literally every year is the same thing for them. They make the playoffs like decently comfortably, except for like last year when they made on the last kick of the season, and they just lose right away. So it's like there's no optimism whatsoever for the fans like going into playoffs because they just know what's going to happen. And it's like, let's be real, the Red Bulls are not going to do anything in the playoffs this year, like every year. So
I was just going to say, it's pretty much just what Rory said. I think it's the same thing over and over every year for the Red Bulls. Sneak into the playoffs and don't really do anything. Just rinse and repeat.
I think for Red Bull, I mean, look, they haven't won a game since July. They beat Cincy, surprisingly. They had a horrible Leagues Cup, in my opinion. And then, ever since Leagues Cup, the results just haven't been there. You tie Charlotte, which I guess it's an okay result because it's in Charlotte. And then you let the Philadelphia Union come to New Jersey and just beat you. I don't know. I mean, look, it doesn't get more Red Bull than that. Then they tie SKC with a last-minute goal, I believe. And then you lose to Chicago away. Now, your next game is what? You play Atlanta, you have the Hudson River Derby, and then you have to go to Canada, play TFC, go to Atlanta, host the Crew. I mean, are they going to make the playoffs? Yes. Are they going to do anything in the playoffs? No. Are they going to drop from fourth? I mean, Charlotte's what, a game in hand, uh, 5 points behind. I I could see Red Bull drop to sixth, seventh. Is it going to happen? Probably not, but I could see it. Chicago, I mean, look, the fight for the last two playoff spots in the Eastern Conference is like the best thing ever this season, in my opinion. Everyone knows Miami's winning the Shield. Everyone knows the Crew and Cincy are making the playoffs. No one cares about the other teams. From Charlotte to New England, like anyone can make it. Chicago, 29 points. They can 4 points behind ninth place. They can still make it. Will they? No, but they can definitely still do it. You have Nashville, you have Montreal, you host Toronto, you travel back Charlotte, and then you host Nashville again. I know I said earlier that Nashville and Chicago, like Nashville's going to win, but now looking at this, it is do or die for either team. That's all I'll say. It's do or die for Chicago. I think they can do, but they will probably die.
Chicago always does. I do agree with you that it's pretty fun. Like it's fun in the fact that if one of those teams wins a game, like DC's gotten two pretty good results in a row, and all of a sudden they're in a playoff spot, and they were last like 3 weeks ago. If Nashville strings, like if say Mukhtar goes on a heater, Nashville strings together 3-4 wins, they're probably in a playoff spot. That's the fun of kind of how this is set up, and you can argue that 9 playoff spots is too much. I probably agree, but it gives you this stuff at the end of the year. Like all these teams are still in a spot where they can make some noise or some damage, even if it's been a horrible season for them.
Next up, we have Houston versus RSL. A pretty convincing win for Houston at home, 4-1, with goals from Amin Bassi, Griffin Dorsey, Sebastian Kowalczyk, and Ezekiel Ponce. I think, obviously, it's a good win for Houston, but I think the bigger issue or question here is RSL. As we get later in the season here, they don't really look the same as they did earlier in the year. Chicho Arango did score in this game. It feels like he hasn't scored in months after a ton of goals at the start of the season. But yeah, even with the big transfer window, RSL hasn't been on a great stretch.
Are we counting that as an Arango goal or
Yeah,
a Sviatchenko own goal?
Yeah,
It doesn't really change anything. Like he created the goal, which he's needed.
Yeah.
But I would say semantically, like, are we counting it as a goal or an own goal?
He had an effect on the play. We'll say that.
Okay, fair enough. But yeah, as you're talking about with Arango here, since June 1st, he had a hat trick against Austin. This is all comps here. He's missed time due to some hamstring issues. He's missed time due to that suspension that has been swept under the rug. But other than that, since June 1st, he has 1 goal and 1 assist, and then this weekend. That's not good for a guy that was firmly leading the Golden Boot race as a star at DP. And I think as Arango goes, RSL kind of goes, and I don't know if it's not. I'm just kind of being out of form because of missing so much time. I don't know if it's not really creating chemistry with the new number 10 Diogo Gonçalves, or I don't know if maybe losing Andres Gomez on that wing kind of puts more defenders on Arango because they didn't really replace Gomez. But Arango needs to pick it up if RSL's going to do anything come playoff time.
I was gonna say losing Andres Gomez is like obviously a huge loss. This is crazy. Like this is a kid who came to MLS and just blew up the league and left like right away. And it's crazy. He was amazing, and obviously without him now, Arango's not really a striker who's gonna score pick up the ball, dribble pass. He'll score those goals kind of, but he's more of a fox in the box kind of guy, and he needs service obviously. So it's gonna be interesting how he's gonna adapt with the new number 10, like you said, Diogo Gonçalves. But but honestly, we should be talking about Houston here because Houston, I mean, they balled out tonight. Obviously, even though RSL haven't been good, they are a good team because they proved it in the first half of the season. Bossy, Ponce, Dorsey, and Kowalczyk scoring. this is like this is a good team, especially with Ponce. Like they're pretty tight defensively. Obviously, the two in the middle, Artur and Hector Herrera, are probably one of the best two holding midfielders in the league, holding midfielder combo in the league. And offensively, like I said, Bossi, Ponce, Kovalchuk, even Ibrahim Aliou, Coco Garcia, these are really good players. And yeah, they can do something in the playoff. I mean, last year was a great year for them. They won Open Cup and they made it to the conference finals. So yeah, this is it's pretty interesting for Houston how quickly they went from terrible to pretty good.
Real quick for RSL, from one of the best in the West to fourth. That's not that bad. But now there's a chance where they have to go play. I mean, I don't think it really matters since it's, you play one away, you play one home. But look, if there's a chance that they have to play 2 games away at Seattle, at Vancouver, at Houston even, I don't know. Those are games that I don't really see Salt Lake winning away. Could it happen? Yeah. But with the way that they're doing right now, I think the season's not over for Salt Lake City, but I think it's going to end quicker than they wanted it to.
Yeah, like we talked about earlier, you do not want to be limping into the playoffs. At this time, you want to be getting hot. You don't want to be slowing down.
Yeah, well, one quick note on Houston before we move on. They've got Ibrahim Aliou starting at the left wing right now because Lawrence and Ali went down to injury. I'm so devastated in Ali tore his ACL, man. I loved watching him. He didn't play much for them. He was just coming in, but man, that guy, he's electric. Great dribbler, so fast. An eye for goal. He really looked like the real deal. I'm so devastated he got hurt. And this is after they lost Nelson Quinones to another big knee injury at the start of the season. It's felt like they've been looking for that specific profile in the left wing. I thought Quinones was that if he didn't have the end product. I thought Anali was that with the end product. I loved watching both of them, and both of them went down with big knee injuries. It's so frustrating. I'm glad that they can still kind of pull out wins without needing those guys.
Next up, we have my Minnesota United with a big 3-1 road win over St. Louis. Not a ton to say. Good, obviously a game you need to win against a team in the bottom of the Western Conference. Longwane had a nice rebound goal, not a very good rebound from Berkey, but and then the second goal, Kelvin Yeboah beat the defender down the side and played it in. It was an own goal, but incredible work rate and play to beat the defender, and then a pen by Yeboah. So he obviously made his presence felt, and I feel like in every game Yeboah has shown up, and it hasn't taken him long to adapt to the league, which is something as a Minnesota fan, seeing a number 9 actually score goals is very nice to see. So we'll hope that continues, but in the first 3 games he's been very good controlling games. You can just tell that there's another threat up top, something that hasn't really been there the whole season. So it's really good, especially this late in the season when you need to get hot.
I'm not standing for your Tenny Oluwaseyi slander right now, but otherwise, I do kind of agree with your analysis of that. Yeboah has been good to start. I'll touch on St. Louis a little bit here. This result probably kills them for this season, but I do think they've kind of found something a little bit with Simon Betcher, Cedric Toyshirt, and Marcel Hartl. Those guys give them a little bit more in attack than they've had before, but they're just so bad defensively that it just doesn't matter. Like they just Berkey isn't performing at an insanely high level this year like he was last year, and it's shown they just cannot keep the ball out of their own net, and that's like they're 11 points back of the playoffs now with an extra game played than both Portland and Minnesota. So I think we can kind of officially call them dead. They're not officially eliminated, but they're not making it in.
Congrats, Minnesota, on the win. That's all I have to say. Good for them.
Are you saying that you guys don't have much to talk about a Minnesota St. Louis game? What is this blasphemy?
Oh boy, Minnesota, St. Louis. Where do we even begin?
No, but Kelvin Yeboah is good though. He's a good signing, and I don't know if they needed it because Tanny, obviously me and Rory are huge Tanny Oluwaseyi fans, but yeah, Yeboah is good, and with them, yeah, there you go. With them, like both like Minnesota having two good nines plus Longwane, Lud, obviously like they have a good team. They should make the playoffs, and they could maybe do some damage in the playoffs. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, one thing I'll add on Oluwaseyi is just the fact that a bunch of those goals came at the start of the season, and then Copa America came around, and then he was injured, and then another international window. So there hasn't been a ton of games played for Oluwaseyi. So it'll be good to see him get more time and get back into form. Colorado picks up a 2-1 win over Portland thanks to goals from Rafael Navarro, Jonathan Lewis. David Ayala got the goal for Portland, but obviously this is a very good result for Colorado, who's battling for a home playoff spot against a pretty good team, Portland, who also, they're not quite battling, but they're right up in there. I wouldn't be surprised if Portland got a home playoff spot when it's all said and done, but a big win at home for Colorado.
I'll be very quick with my judgment of this game. Georgi Mihailovic, 2 assists, made in Chicago, but made in Montreal. But yeah, Portland and Colorado are actually two pretty like fun teams to watch. I love watching Portland. Evander, this guy is one of the best players in the league. Colorado, like even though Georgie is good, and Georgie's scored a lot and assisted a lot this year, but like there's tens on a different level than Georgie, but he's pretty good. And he's brought this Colorado team who, without him, would not be good. Probably not be good. Probably be fighting for a playoff spot. And now they're like doing very well. So yeah. Also, I have no idea how that red card was not overturned. Like that, literally, I don't even know if he gave him I don't know if people saw, but I think it was Zuparic, Yappy kind of off the ball, touched him. But when I say touched him, I don't even know if there was contact. It didn't even look like there was contact. But and yeah, Zuparic sold it. But yeah, a good win for Colorado.
So yeah, I wanted to talk about the yellow card or the red card. I don't see anything about it. You have to think they've appealed it, right?
Yeah,
that's an atrocious decision. He barely touched him.
Yeah, I think it'll be pretty crazy if Yappy's not available next game. But one thing I wanted to add on what Ryan said with Evander, he was on a crazy run this summer, and if he gets back into that form, and he's still obviously playing good, but if he gets starts going crazy again, I think Portland can make a very deep run too, and challenge maybe the Galaxy if we want to consider them the best team in the West. But if Evander's on his game, then Portland can go anywhere.
Look, don't look now. But the Colorado Rapids, 1 point behind LAFC for second place in the West. It's crazy that Chris Armas is going to take the Colorado Rapids to a top 3 finish in the Western Conference, in my opinion. If you told me this before the season started, I would have called you crazy. I didn't watch the game, so I don't really have much to add. But look, this is great for the Rapids. I think they could finish second. Is LAFC going to mess up? I wouldn't be surprised, especially now. Well,
they still have to play Cincinnati too, away. By the way, LAFC, that's a pretty easy game that you could lose.
We've been saying it all night. Anything can happen. I wouldn't be surprised if Colorado finishes second. I think first is done for the Galaxy.
Now on to the actual biggest game of the week, El Tráfico. Never disappoints. LAFC went out to an early 2-0 lead, but the Galaxy scored 4 unanswered goals to beat their crosstown rivals. Anyone want to start with this one? Because I think there's going to be a lot of talking about this one.
Let Arturo start.
I think so, yeah.
Oh boy. Well, best rivalry in MLS. I don't think it's a debate.
Yeah.
I didn't, I saw that within 15 minutes LAFC was winning. I thought that that's it, that's the game. I don't know what was said at halftime, but it's quite incredible that the Galaxy within 2 minutes were able to tie this up, and then they ended up, just killing LAFC off. Like I said, they're gonna finish first in the Western Conference. Supporters Shield is a stretch. Could they do it? Eh. But they got the West done. I think. Hold on. Jovic scoring is huge for the Galaxy. Yeah, that's all I'll say. I didn't watch the game, so.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think another big thing to add, not necessarily from this exact game, but how quick the LA Galaxy's turnover from last year was, with Peck coming in and with Paintsill. Usually you see these, like, they take a few years to adapt to the league. Usually you don't see that. But these two players have taken the team with Pooch and Jovic taking the team on their back, and they're in first place. So a lot of the times you don't see that from first year players, and projects take time, but LA Galaxy have been on fire as of late.
Yeah, I'll dig into this game tactically a little bit because I kind of thought that there was an interesting kind of change the Galaxy made at halftime. You saw in the first half, I think Greg Van even kind of pointed it out at the game. Denny Bouanga was able to kind of get into open space, catching Mickey Yamane high up the pitch and being able to run at Jalen Neal, like a young center back, which is objectively not the matchup you want if you're the Galaxy, and it's kind of what led to the first two goals. Especially the second one was super obvious. Like, he legitimately went around Neal, got it on his right foot, and put it through the legs of McCarthy. So, but in the second half, as LAFC kind of stepped back and sat into their block as they tend to do these days, they kept Yamane further back. The Galaxy did. They put Royce into more of an actual 10, and Pooch kind of picked up the ball in deeper positions a little bit more. I think if you kind of follow any tactical analysis in the league, and anyone who kind of digs into it, a big criticism of Ricky Pooch is that he doesn't really know where to, or he's always in the wrong spots off the ball. And I thought that was really true in the first half. Like, he was either he was kind of caught way too far up, or caught not really being in the right spaces, relative to Marco Royce, and it kind of left Edwin Cerrillo with a ton of work to do, especially with Yamane getting far up the pitch too. Like, he basically had Bouanga and Bogusz and Giroux and O'Brien and Tillman and even Hollingshead and Kempo was running at like 4 defenders for the Galaxy, and it was just causing mayhem, as you expected it would. And then when you drop Pooch back, you kind of gain control of midfield a little bit. I thought he did a really good job getting on the ball, and getting it moved forward, not letting LAFC kind of stop them around the center circle and then get turned back the other way in transition. Part of that's, I think, on LAFC kind of sitting too far back and not hitting their triggers the right way, but it was Pooch that really kind of set the stage for the comeback, and I think it shows that the 1 goal and 2 assists. But yeah, he was also robbed of Player of the Week, by the way. The fact that when Messi had a great game, Ricky Pooch was the best player this weekend by a mile. He was unbelievable that second half, completely unplayable.
Yeah, it was a great game. Obviously, everybody knows El Trafico, like Arturo said, best rivalry in MLS. Always goals, always just a great game. That second half was one of the best halves of football I've watched in a while. Royce and Pooch, just beautiful to watch. Also, something interesting was that Peck, he had a lot of looks, and none of them were really troubling Lloris. He had more in the first half. He had a few in the second half, but none of them are really troubling Lloris. And it's crazy because this is their guy offensively. Obviously, Ricky Pooch and Royce and Paintsill, even though Paintsill wasn't there. But Peck has been, I think, had the best numbers. And he didn't really contribute to the game in terms of goals or assists. And then you have all these weapons. Like Jovic, that first goal was amazing. Turning and then cutting inside out and putting it top left. That's just a beautiful goal from your 9.
You can see the turf where Segura's foot slipped when when Joveljic did that cut over. Oh my god,
Yeah.
nasty.
Beautiful goal. And the second goal, I'm forgetting right now. Oh yeah, obviously surreal goal of the week by
Yeah,
a
it's a
mile.
banger.
Yeah, beautiful goal. And then on the third goal, Royce and Pooch, the connection was crazy. And Royce gets it on the end line, cuts it back. Pooch like scuffs it into the ground, and Joveljic is just at the right spot at the right spot at the right time, which Joveljic of the past maybe would not have been there, but this Joveljic is more confident with better players around him, and he found the goal, and then Ricky Puch's goal to seal it. Beautiful goal. Like every goal the Galaxy scored was just amazing. Beautiful, beautiful football they played in the second half. Yeah, compared to the first half, they were not good whatsoever. Like LAFC was all over them. But yeah, second half, and also defensively, like LAFC had like nothing going forward in the second half. Maybe one or two chances. They honestly looked more dangerous when Kamara and Ordaz came on, because like I don't know, just Buanga and Bogusz kind of gave up in the second half. But yeah, great game by the Galaxy, and they are going to be scary in the playoffs. Paintsel, Peck, Pooch, Royce, Joveljic, their defense is solid. Like this is a great team.
Are we sure their defense is solid? Are we going to say that?
Oh, okay. I don't mean,
I don't know.
I don't know
I
about
don't know.
perfect, but
I
like
disagree. I don't
okay.
think it's. I don't think it's all that good. Like I don't think it's bad. I mean like they're better than like a non-playoff team, but I don't know. I think they give up too many chances. It's not even all on the back line. Like sometimes they get stuck in the first half, like they did in this game, and with their midfielders get caught too high up the pitch, they get killed in transition because Maya Yoshida is too slow. Their left back option, like Johnny Nelson started in this game, he's fine, he's okay, and Yamane love him, but sometimes I think he does what I think the coach kind of tells him a little bit sometimes, and I think sometimes Vandy keeps him too high up the pitch. I don't know if this will happen in the playoffs as much, but I don't know. Say they come up against Seattle, and Seattle sits back a little bit and puts Jordan Morris and De La Vega and Rothrock on the counter. I don't know if if that's a great matchup for the Galaxy. They're just defensively, I don't think they're set up very well against that.
Yeah, one final thing I'll add to this. I didn't watch the first half, but I tuned in for the second half. And when the Galaxy scored that first goal, you knew they were winning the game. The momentum, everything just totally changed, and LAFC was just shocked. You could just tell they were not going to win that game.
The crowd at Dignity Health Sports Park was awesome as well.
Yeah.
That's the best I've seen it from there in a while, and you expect it for a rivalry match like this, but I hope they can kind of show out more, because I think when the Galaxy are good and their fans are kind of in there and on top of it, I think it's better for the league.
We have the Vancouver Whitecaps beating San Jose 2-0. Not much to say here for San Jose. They're going to finish last in the West, but Vancouver gets goals from Fafa Pico and the debutant Stuart Armstrong. So it's good for Vancouver. Good points, obviously points that you need to have. Fafa Pico, I think, has been pretty underrated this season, his whole career, some would say. But yeah, and good for Armstrong to score in his debut.
Yeah, like Vancouver is always going to win this game, no matter what happened. Yeah, Pico, you're right. Pico is just one of those guys that's just like a MLS striker who scores goals like no matter where he goes. He had a really good stint in Houston, I think, in 2021. He's been everywhere. Obviously, Arturo knows him. Philly, he was always scoring goals here and there. And yeah, he's just the MLS grinder, but can score. And also Armstrong's goal was beautiful. Like the interplay between, I don't know who passed it to Gold.
Yeah, really good build-up.
I think it was Vite maybe, and then yeah, Gold lays it back, like doesn't even look, and yeah, Armstrong just tucks it away like a ex-Prem player would and should. And yeah, it was a great game by them, but obviously it's against San Jose, so like it doesn't really mean much, but obviously we do know Vancouver is good. So yeah.
By the way, this loss actually officially eliminated San Jose from the playoffs. Like official.
Damn.
Just in case their fans had any hope, I don't know,
The end of the road.
Ryan Gauld is good. I think bringing in Armstrong will kind of help him takes some of the burden off of him being the only real kind of playmaker in the team, because Armstrong can kind of provide that too. They need to get Brian White back from that concussion he suffered in the Canadian Championship against Pacific. I think that's the key between if they're going to be a good team or a team that can, win a couple games in the playoffs. They're not good enough to win the West or anything. They're going to lose to either LA team. But if they can get White back and firing and everyone in the lineup, they could maybe sneak into a conference semifinal or like maybe even a conference final if the cards fall the right way for them.
Yeah, I think Vancouver's gonna do good in the playoffs. From the start of the season, I really like them. Vancouver's just a team that I don't mind. So when they do good, good for them. But Jean-Fabrice Picault, Fafa Picault, the Gazelle, slow feet do not eat. That is the man, Fafa Picault. Philadelphia Union's number 9 gave us some of the greatest moments, But not enough about that. Enough about the Union. What a season he's having. I think, in my opinion, he has been fantastic for Vancouver. He's shown up when Vancouver has needed him. 9 goals, 4 assists. Look, that's not for a striker. That's not the ideal numbers, but for the how it is in Vancouver, for them to be getting results with Pico having these numbers, it's great in my opinion. I just really wanted to talk about Pico and that he's doing really good. The season is not going unnoticed. I think he will do great things. Like Ryan said, he was in Houston. I think he did good in Houston. I don't really remember. He was with Dallas. I don't think it was the best of times with Dallas. But yeah, Pico is amazing. God, I think he's a great player in this league. I think he's one of the better 10s of MLS. Just the whole Vancouver Whitecaps fan. Like I said, I don't want to sound like I'm going way over the top with them. I feel like that's what I'm doing right now. But they're just a team that I like. I don't mind them. Startini, he's been doing a great job. I just loaded up their squad here. They have Joe Bendick. I hope they do great. I hope they do great things. That's
TFC legend, Joe Bendick.
MLS legend. Are you kidding me?
MLS legend, yeah.
Do you need a backup keeper? Joe Bendick. Boom. I think he won the Shield in 2020. I could be wrong. He's won more trophies, I'm pretty sure. But enough about the Union guys. Look, God is amazing. The new Guy Armstrong is amazing. White, when he comes back, he'll do good. I think it was Rory that said they're going to lose to one of the Los Angeles teams. Personally, I believe they can beat LAFC. I don't think they'll beat the Galaxy.
They always
It's a crazy
LAFC.
take, but look, it's no.
Streaks have to end. Streaks have to end.
It's true. It's true.
Best league in the world. You never know what's going to happen. And that's the second to last match. I noticed that Will said it. But yeah, we have Seattle and SKC.
Big slip up
too.
Classic Sunday MLS encounter.
All right, we'll finish off with the one Sunday game. I'll start right now. I did not watch this game, but Seattle picks up the win against Sporting KC pretty convincingly. I think pretty much does it for Sporting KC's season. Anyone want to start?
I know Rory wants to talk about Rothrock for sure. Everybody knows that.
Oh, I was so ready. Yeah, I did watch this game, and Seattle looked pretty in control the whole game. It was pretty boring. They were on the front foot. Jackson Reagan scored off the corner kick, and then it was kind of smooth sailing since then. Paul Rothrock scored. He's had a fantastic season. He's really cemented his spot as a starting winger there. And then on the other side, Georgia Manungu started this one. Pedro de la Vega was on the bench. I don't think he was fit to start, but he did come off for 35 minutes at the end there. But yeah, Rothrock, I remember watching him for TFC 2 a couple years ago when they drafted him in the Super Draft, and he was really, really good for them. He even played a game with the first team at one point, and he's one of those energy wingers that's not going to score or assist a ton, but he does a lot of good two-way work. He kind of takes some of the pressure off. Your high skilled guys that kind of do all the goals and assists. But he's one of those guys that you kind of need in the team, and I'm happy to see him kind of work his way up after he went back to Tacoma Defiance to kind of being a regular sub for Seattle to now being a guy that they can't really take out of the starting 11. So it's good for him. Otherwise, I don't have anything else to say about the game. Like their rival in St. Louis, this game probably officially took Kansas City out of any faint hope they had at making the playoffs.
I was just gonna say, you said his name, Georgie Manungu. This guy is like so electric. I think he's gonna be really good in MLS.
He's good, yeah.
He's like a joy to watch. He's really, on the wing. He gets by players. He dribbles like with all the freedom in the world, and he's just lacking end product right now. But that'll come eventually. But yeah, a solid win for Seattle. Obviously, not like a game they were probably going to lose against SKC, and even Rusnak missed the pen. So yeah, good for Seattle. And I don't really think they're going to do anything in the playoffs, but who knows? We'll see.
Yeah, one final thing I'll add, Tim Melia may be old, but he's still out here saving pens, so.
Can never take it away. I think Melia is actually still pretty decent, but Kansas City's just kind of hopeless. Other than Steven Afrifa. We love Steven Afrifa.
I think KC, they have when's the Open Cup final? On Wednesday, right?
It's 25th, maybe? I don't remember off the top of my head.
Oh, jeez. Next week?
It's next week, yeah.
Yeah, okay. Well,
yeah,
they have that.
25th.
We can talk. Yeah, we can talk about that next week.
We'll talk about that later. We'll do that in the Canadian Championship at the same
time. I thought it
was
was this Wednesday, but they got that to look forward to. They don't have bad players. Polito, Tommy, Russell, Shallowy. On paper, they're good. Watching them, Afrifa.
Afrifa is unlikely their best player this season, bro. Come on.
He really is. He's good.
Came out of nowhere.
Steven Afrifa. Well, look, I'm not gonna lie. I don't watch SKC. Man, but another disappointing season for Kansas City. It's them and STL. St. Louis are eliminated, and basically, I think what's his face, Peter Vermees. Questions have been there for a long time. I don't think SKC is going to do anything. I think he's there. He's going to be there for to finish this year and for next year as well. But they need to start asking questions about: is Vermees the answer continuing forward? Is Vermees going to be Vermees, or should we have got rid of him a long time ago? I know there's not many people that are going to be attracted to the SKC job, but they'll find someone. It's SKC.
Definitely something to watch.
Yeah, sorry, one thing. It's kind of hard to say who would be interested in the SKC job because the SKC job hasn't been available in forever.
Yeah.
Vermees is synonymous with them. I can't remember that. They've never played without him basically.
Oh yeah. What is he? Longest tenured?
Oh yeah.
He's gotta be
long shot
too, right?
Yeah.
It might be double second longest at this point.
Jeez. Oh man. I know Kurt in second longest. I cannot imagine having Vermees for that long.
Yeah, maybe it's not quite double, but it's up there. He's been there forever.
Look, he's done great things. He's won the Open Cup in Chester. I think no, it was there. But yeah, I don't know. I think that needs to be a huge question for SKC to finish that thought.
All right, we're finished with game reviews now, and now we'll just talk a little bit over the big news in the last week or so. Both of these just kind of happened in the last 24 hours, but LAFC officially brought back Carlos Vela. Kind of weird. I think this would have been a lot more important if Kike Oliveira would have been sold to Toluca, but that transfer fell through at the last second. So it'll be interesting to see where Vela lands, where he plays, what kind of time he gets with LAFC after not being there for almost a year.
Yeah, I think it opens up a couple of possibilities for them. Like, again, I think he's brought him to be, final 30-minute super sub. If they're, losing a game like they did against the Galaxy, you bring on Vela and he gives you a different kind of threat and attack. He can hold onto the ball a little bit more. He can be a bit more of like a playmaker in small spaces, which they don't have. Like, they've got a ton of great players up front. None of them are really like playmakers in small spaces the way the Vela is. So it gives them a different look. I don't think it's gonna it doesn't make them MLS Cup favorites or anything, but I think it's a good addition, and good for the vibes too. Everyone's it's Carlos Vela, and for LAFC it's can't really go wrong.
Yep, when you think LAFC, you think Carlos Vela. So
Yeah, he's the heart of Los Angeles. He is the Los Angeles Football Club. It's going to be interesting. I think this is like really wild. I think this is going to bring Griezmann in, like to confirm that, and then Vela's going to have their. I know the contract's until 2025, or an option until 2025, but I think this is huge for Griezmann for that transfer.
I don't know. Vela is Vela. Like, he's kind of finished, but good for him that he's back in LA. That's all I gotta say. They don't really need him, but yeah.
the last piece of news we'll talk about is San Diego FC officially hired Mikey Varas as their first manager in the club's history. He just got off his stint with the U.S. men's national team as the interim coach, with a loss against Canada and a draw against New Zealand. So not a great look, but it'll be interesting to see how San Diego does in their first season with Lozano obviously already signed. But
And I don't have much to say about Mikey Varas. He's a coach. He's a Berhalter kind of tree coach. I think he's probably going to be a pretty average type of MLS coach. Like, he'll play probably like a 4-2-3-1 type thing. He'll use the wingers and the 10 and that's kind of the playmakers, and hope you get some goals out of whoever they sign up top. And overall, I don't know. It's hard to really draw any conclusions of a head coach signing before they're like an entire team built. So we'll see in the future, I guess.
Listen, all I know about this guy is that he couldn't even beat MLS legend Winston Reed and current MLS OK player Michael Boxall's New Zealand at home. So yeah, I don't know. I didn't even know who he was to be honest before these games, but yeah.
Yeah, no, it's over. He was a Berhalter assistant. Didn't beat Canada. Didn't beat New Zealand. I don't know where I mean, I've never seen the guy before. I didn't know who he was before we played Canada. But good luck, San Diego, I guess.
I don't know if those results really mattered in San Diego. For starters, they kind of hired him before that happened, and it was only official after. But also, it was pretty clear that U.S. players were not up for either of those games, and we're waiting for Pochettino to come in. So he was kind of given a tough job. I'm not going to write him off in MLS. I'll give him and San Diego some time to kind of settle in, and we'll see what they're about. But that's the next year thing. I don't think there's anything much to say for that right now.
final segment for today, we'll just talk a little bit about the upcoming games on Wednesday. We have Atlanta United versus Inter Miami, New England taking on Montreal, NYCFC against Philadelphia, Toronto and Columbus, Orlando and Charlotte, Houston taking on Vancouver, Minnesota hosting FC Cincinnati, Nashville SC and Chicago, Sporting KC in Colorado, Real Salt Lake and FC Dallas, LAFC takes on Austin FC, Portland and the LA Galaxy, that should be a big one, and the Seattle Sounders take on San Jose for the last game of Wednesday's slate. Do you guys, which game do you think has big implications?
I think a lot of them that have any of those teams along the playoff line and all that. I think Orlando, Charlotte might be kind of the biggest one in terms of playoff seeding, but in terms of someone's kind of playoff life in there, I don't know. Like Arturo said this earlier, Nashville, Chicago, whoever loses that game is not making the playoffs. Simple as that.
I'd say also Montreal, New England. Obviously, I'm a Montreal fan, but yeah, whoever loses that game, over for them. Also, Vancouver, Houston is going to be a great game as well. Yeah, like Will said, Portland, LA is going to be an amazing game, especially that it's at Providence Park. Going to be two electrifying teams going up against each other, and yeah, I'm probably going to watch that. It's going to be good.
I think, from what I said earlier, Chicago, Nashville, obviously, I think it's going to be one of the better games this weekend. It's either going to be best game ever or worst game ever, no in between. Obviously, I'm going to pick the Union game. I think we have to do good. We can't lose our next 3 games. Obviously, it's going to be difficult at New York City, considering that New York City is one of the better teams this year. But, it's do or die for the Union now. And if we don't do, I think we're dead.
Yeah, I think the Galaxy and Portland is going to be a huge matchup, and even a potential playoff matchup preview. So it'll be good to see how those two teams fare against each other. That just about does it for today. We're hoping to do this every week, just a kind of a roundup of the games, a preview of next week's games, go over a little bit of news. So this was episode 1. Thank you guys for listening. We hope to do this for a while, so keep listening. It helps us out a lot.